want to explore them from the doctor's perspective, okay? I mean, there will be more of these conversations, right? Sometimes we'll explore it from the patient's perspective. Sometimes we'll try and explore it from the administrator's perspective. But today we are hearing from the doctors. And boy, have I got two special doctors for you. First one, just like the other one actually, needs no introduction. Dr. Hadi Mohammed Abdullah is a neurosurgeon at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. It's a name you've heard before. He's the General Secretary of the Islamic Medical Association of Ghana. He's the former president of the Ghana Association of Doctors in Residency. He's the former president of the Junior Doctors Association. He's been a doctor for 20 years. All right, and but he looks like he only turned 20. Dr. Hadi, how nice to have you in the studio. Good morning.
Yeah, nice to have you. I'm always elated about the progress of Joy FM. I remember my first time interviewed by Komla Dumo. May so rest in peace. In a very small cubicle. I still see that cubicle.
Yes,
I'm sure that's where you have your watch party nowadays, I'm sure. But yeah, I can see the progress you've made in the production and all that. And anytime I come here, it seems there's progress being made. So
it's been 30 years, Okay, we also have with us a doctor who kind of burst into the headlines when he wrote a very, very moving article at a time when some of our leaders were being flown out of the country for medical care. And his own father, in spite of all the work he himself and his wife actually do as medical officers in this country, his own father couldn't get health care in some of our institutions here in Ghana. Dr. Harry Benjamin Coley Glover. Hey, today the Ghans are represented. That's right. Dr. Harry Glover is the CEO of Life Healthcare Medical, Dental and Optical Centers. And Doc has made the time to be with us this morning. We really appreciate it. Doc, how have you been?
I'm good. Joy FM is home. I've been here a couple of times.
Yes, you have. Yeah, we're glad you're back. All right, but today we have a really troubling conversation. I want us to get straight into it. We know what's happened. Yeah. And now where we are is that the doctors are calling for an apology. You're both doctors. You've both seen what happened. I'll start with you, Dr. Hadi. An apology? I mean, we've all been told off by our boss before.
Yeah.
We don't go around calling for an apology, otherwise we won't work. Why must that happen in this case?
Okay, I want to make a general statement. As someone who has been a leader over the years from primary school to where I've gotten to today, I think one of the strengths a leader would have is to be able to admit that probably the way I spoke to my junior colleague was in the right way, and probably apologize to the person. That actually strengthens you. It takes a lot of courage to tell somebody, especially in the public, that, oh, I'm sorry. I remember when this issue came up, I said if I was very close to the minister, I would have said, look, just call the consultant internally. Even if you don't have money and you have to even borrow, get him a ticket to Accra and talk to him, and then you can come out and issue statement together. And you would have win that person to yourself for the rest of your life, because looking at the minister and his demeanor and the way he's been going about his work, I can see he means well. But my admonition to him is that there's always strength in getting the courage to tell somebody, I'm sorry. And if you've read the book before, it says ego is an enemy. For me, I've always allowed that to guide me as a leader. It's very important. Look, it won't take anything away from him.
But why should he be sorry, though?
All right. You see, if you look at the case under discussion, there are a lot of emotions around it. And I know how the practice is in the north and other parts of our community. I've worked in the district before. When you go to such communities, I always say even the nose and the eyes of the community is in the hospital, where people feel that they have the right to make a person a CEO or even a head of department. And we all know how our politics is run in this country, where even party foot soldiers think that they can determine who a CEO of a teaching hospital or a regional hospital should be. Even heads of department. This is not the first time this is happening in Tamale. I'm surprised it has escaped the media. But before even this CEO who was sacked, there was also one called Dr. Kobila. It was party foot soldiers who moved him out of his office in the same Tamale. A senior colleague of mine took over from him in Tamale. He is an indigene of that area. He couldn't survive. And this is a fine surgeon. After 1 or 2 years, he decided to resign. And that is how this CEO came there. So it is a problem that has lingered for more than a decade. And I think that we have to handle the issues not just purely on medical or administrative background of it, but we also have to look at the social aspect of it. How people are able to walk into a hospital to virtually, let me use the literal, remove a CEO from office. So that culture is there, which is a very bad culture. And when you have a minister of health who walks in well-intended visit and then decide questioning a CEO in the full glare of the public and questioning a neurologist, so far as I am concerned, or my memory set me right, this is the first neurologist to go to the north. We neurosurgeons are about 30 now, which is very low.
In
total, but neurologists are about 17 in the whole country.
Huh?
So it is, they don't even know
the
value of the person they have up north there. And that is so, it is not just because of the personality of the doctor, but the fact that he's a neurologist who is sacrificed. In fact, he passed through me during his training at a point in time. And so I was surprised to see him like at the center of it, because where did this guy even leave Kolebu to the north? It takes a lot of sacrifice to do that. And when it comes to mortality in health institutions, there are laid down procedures. Every month, we have what we call the morbidity and mortality meetings, where all deaths are investigated and discussed, and we ask questions. It is one of the most feared meetings every month in a hospital that no doctor or head of a unit will look up, even the junior doctors, because they usually will do the presentation. But it is the head of the unit who would have to answer. Of all that has happened, that meeting will be held, and they would inquire about what happened leading to the death of this patient. But could you, let's be frank with ourselves. These problems have been going on for a long time, and it's not just Tamale Teaching Hospital. So now I'm coming to our general healthcare system.
So, I mean, just to clarify, what you're saying the minister should apologize for is the fact that he brought up these issues in the public glare.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what you think he should apologize.
I think so. And I feel, considering what is going on about the doctor and his family in the social media and all that, I think, you see, the health minister will come out stronger and be well respected. It is not something we do here. It's not very common. But I have seen in the UK where a doctor walked the Prime Minister, Cameron, out of his ward. Because Cameron came and was talking to a patient. You know, the privacy of the patient must be respected. And in this case where a patient has died, we may think that as political leaders, we are doing some good to the relatives of the patient. But assuming this patient might have died from a disease with stigmatization in Ghana, do you want the doctor to answer it? So it is not just for this particular case, but in the future, you don't want a situation where you come and will be harassing. I have had patients that have kept it a secret from all their family, the condition that because the patient's wish was that he or she doesn't want the relatives to know about. And I have kept one secret for almost 40 years. An HIV woman. She died without the family knowing about it. But she was happy because she told me the day I tell her daughter, she's sure that she will just go down because of the nature of the daughter. So it is very important, and you don't do it publicly. And so many questions were asked and answered. I think ethically it was wrong for that to have happened. We shouldn't have. The doctor, in fact, after the second question by the minister, I think someone should have drawn the attention of the minister. Or the doctor could have even drawn his attention and said, please, can we maybe have this discussion in the boardroom? Because they all had good intention. But I think we should not allow this to happen again. It shouldn't. We shouldn't be asking doctors questions about conditions of patients or what led to the death of a patient publicly. It is wrong. It is unethical. And I would really be happy if the Medical and Dental Council can actually issue a statement on this. It's so unethical. It shouldn't have happened.
And just to add, you know, Dr. Valentine is the head of the emergency center. You don't disrespect him in front of all his subordinates or the CEO. The next time, somebody will have the effrontery to disrespect him and say, oh, as for you, didn't the minister come and shout on you that shut up? So you also have the chain of command and trying to keep that, because that keeps the place working. If all the respect he has is gone, when he issues command certain times, the orderly can tell him that, hey, I won't follow your instructions.
Now, we've heard from him, Zapata, you've raised this point, right, about his respect being eroded by that communication. Because we've heard from the camp of the minister that it was because of something he said in front of the family of the deceased patient. I think he said something about, why is this being blown out of proportion? And the health minister had asked him to keep quiet, just to stop saying that. But he kept going. And the health minister said, I have asked you to keep quiet. Right? So I wonder, I mean, while we are pointing out where the health minister erred, do we think that the medical professional, the neurosurgeon,
neurologist, yeah.
Thank you, the neurologist could also have done better?
Yeah, he could have done better, but something be unfortunate. But you see, I was telling you earlier, the system frustrates you so much that it almost becomes the norm. You know, when I started my house job, my first few cases that I did, you work so hard and the patient dies, I ended up crying because it drains you emotionally. It's like you go at length, and simple things you can do to save a person, you just don't have the gadgets. I told you when my dad was unconscious, a suction just to draw saliva from his mouth was not working. Yes, and my wife and I are both medics, so you have the skill, but you are handicapped. So it's bad.
Is it expensive, suction?
The suction, it's very cheap. It's about less than 500 Ghana.
In fact, Coach, if I may come in here, this is a machine that even the Kolebu biomedical engineers have been able to actually manufacture one. All they needed was support to upscale it, and that support has never come. And that is why you saw me some few months ago come here. I was talking about taking Kolebu to the next level, the 100 years anniversary of Kolebu, about building like an innovation like how, because we have people who are capable of doing this, but we've not supported them. We rather prefer to go and buy this through procurement and inflate the prices. But we have people who could have worked on this, and that is how many of these hospitals around the world have improved.
Dr. Hadi, I'm just curious. Buying through procurement, I know that the hospital have internally generated funds, and the hospital can, some of these things that you need, not so expensive. These are things the hospital should procure on its own. So a hospital that is headed by a medical doctor would not procure these very affordable equipment.
Thank you for the question. I've heard a lot about IGF also in recent times. We have to understand even how these hospitals procure their items and the rules or the laws that guide them, and how these hospitals even come out with fees. A few months ago, we were here discussing about the charges for dialysis in Kolebu. Now, under the old regime, I don't know if that has changed with this new government, but even the hospitals were supposed to, a hospital like Kolebu, the regional hospital, were supposed to give government 30% of their IGF. Now, and when it comes to procurement, he runs a private facility. If you take a syringe, let's say the syringe costs 5 cedis, he will go to the supplier and buy it at 5 cedis.
Or even less. Because when I buy volumes,
exactly,
it comes down.
But our public teaching hospital, because of our procurement law, may end up buying it at 9 cedis or 10 cedis.
How?
Wait, why?
This is, we all know about this, how our look, on paper, the procurement law looks beautiful, but it is one of the laws that derails the funds of the hospitals.
So
in
if I
Ghana.
get you clearly, Dr. Hadi, if I get you clearly, now, while you give 30% to government,
Yeah.
the remaining 70% converted into 100% is for your use now.
Yes.
You have a head of procurement, say at Kolebu, which is a teaching hospital. You have a head of procurement. That head of procurement is expected to procure the things that you need and the things that you can readily acquire based on the agreement with government. I mean, we're told that when it comes to, for a teaching hospital, based on my understanding of how this thing works, you have 75% for goods and services, 15% for compensation, and 10% for capex. That's your IGF.
Yes.
It's good. So some of these things that you need, you can buy.
Yeah.
Now, are we saying that even in the hospital, the head of procurement, when it comes to procuring these things, even in the hospital where you know that if you're buying things in bulk, the price reduces, you are actually buying it at unit price?
Yes. Yes.
And actually, not just unit price, but higher than
actually higher than the unit price.
How's that possible?
You know, and I have sat in some of these procurement meetings before, and you can clearly see that the market value of what you are buying and the bids that have been tabled, you can clearly see. And there are procurement, let me say, like mafias within the healthcare system.
Yeah, but that would tell me of one thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted, if the bids, you open a bid and people bring you prices that are higher than that of the market, you know what the market value is.
Yeah.
You reject the bids unless you are engaged in partnerships to fleece the state.
I'll tell you what, my very first meeting, I mean, I was pulled to chair one of those meetings. And I remember when I look at the prices, I said, no, I mean, this is almost like 3 times the value. At the end of it, the procurement officers told me that, yeah, but somebody has won. The one with the lowest bid has won. So we have to select the bid. So I refused to actually sign that particular paper. I said, look, I was brought in by the medical director. So go back to the medical director and tell him, I said I'm not going to sign. They actually followed me and told me what I'm doing is illegal. It's against the procurement law, because when there's a bidding process, the one with the low, but the one with the lowest is still too high.
Well, but the least responsive, see, it's responsive. See, it's not just the least, but you must also look at, whether that value in itself. So if you speak to the Public Procurement Authority, they will tell you that there are instances where people have actually come with bids, and even the entity has set ceilings that you can say, no, these ceilings are too high.
Yeah, they will tell you that. But is that what really happened? I would really be happy if Joy FM, for example, can actually do a study on the cost of equipment that has been procured for our public hospitals over the years and compare it. I think it is a study that must be done, where you have, for example, a CT scan machine, MRI machines that will cost about $500,000 or $1 million. Government buying it for about $3 million as we speak today. And that brings me back to your question. There are some lifts that are not working in some of our teaching hospitals, and this has been going on for more than 3 years. Okay, the current minister is even aware of it. One of them was at the Kolebu Surgical Department. He even visited, and there were similar altercations like that when he visited some time ago. God forbid, if today a patient is not able to be sent to theater, where the general surgical theaters are on the first floor. Can you imagine a patient who needs surgery, urgent surgery, is not able to have the surgery and dies? And then all of a sudden the community wakes up and say, the doctor delayed in wheeling the patient to theater, or the doctor was drinking coffee whilst the patient was in the lift instead of coming to help the patient. Because we've had instances where doctors and other clinicians and other healthcare workers have to virtually bundle the patient and take the patient to theater. I have wheeled patients several times in theater, have cleaned the floor before. We do all these things. Okay?
But why is the lift not working? I'm interested in the procurement thing.
Yes, and it comes down to procurement. Because if you look at the lift, it is something that if Kolebu is given the free hand to procure this lift, Kolebu would have bought it a long time ago. But the underlying factor, which is something many CEOs will not come out and speak about, is the cost being imposed by the ministry through cooked deals. Deals are cooked, and the health sector is seen as one place that people can make money, as a cash cow, because people are very emotional when it comes to healthcare issue. So politicians over the years have realized that this is where we can milk the nation. We'll provide them with CT scan machine. They say they want ventilators. We'll give them the ventilators. The ventilators, whether it comes with good maintenance contract, they do not care. Once we can make our 10-20% share, we don't care. I've been attending the World Health Expo over the years, and these machines, I know the cost of it. So I'm daring the media. Somebody should take this upon themselves and look at the contract over the last 20 years, the cost of these machines, whether they are actually the true cost and whether we could have gotten them cheaper. The second issue has to do with the maintenance. Today we say in Tamale, MRI machines, CT scan machines are not working. And it's the same thing even when you go to Ho. These machines were provided for all the hospitals without proper maintenance contract. And then within few years, the machine develops a small problem. And then we say, oh, because we don't have contract with you, you can't even go to, say, Siemens or go to GE to come and repair, because some middleman was involved in procuring it. We cook these deals. Let's be very frank with ourselves. These deals are cooked for the political elite. They don't allow the CEOs to buy these machines. And one of the things that made Professor Frimpong Boateng very successful, you should read his book. It's when he came and realized these are how the contract are cooked. He knew some of these good, like sutures and other equipment in Germany. He was able to contact the companies. Even Frimpong, at a point in time, the Public Account Committee tried to drill him down. But it was people like Asedu Nketia and Co. at the time who were in opposition, who defended him. If we allow the CEOs the free hand to work, they can use the IGF generated to get some of these devices and equipment. But if we insist that they must go through the procurement law, and the procurement must be made by our sweetheart, cook it for them, it is wrong. How can you say, for example, that a lift that costs about $65,000, a ministry would impose that on a hospital to buy it at $400,000? Why should this happen? These are the real issues when it comes to funding of hospitals in this country. There are machines that we buy that we could have bought maybe 3 or 4 of those machines. Just last year, Bishop Takia Boy, who I operated on some time ago, I mean, it's no longer an issue of confidentiality because he came out to even speak that I operated on him. I remember when he asked me, what do you want me to do? He wanted to buy me a phone. I said, oh, please. I mean, there are many things we need, so if you could help us. Eventually, he bought me the phone, but he said he would still get me what I wanted. I wanted patient monitors. So I started talking to few people. And then one guy who has become like a mafia within our procurement industry came to me. Oh, you know, these machines, if you tell Bishop to buy it from me, I can put $2,000 each on it for you.
Hey,
yes.
I offer you money.
No, today I'm being frank because we are talking about healthcare. The guy came to see me. This is the first time I'm openly talking about it. And I know this guy has won several contracts. That is why I'm speaking so forcefully today, this morning. Because a lot of contract in this country goes through that guy. He was ready to offer me $2,000.
Inflated price.
Yes, on each of the monitors. Something that a philanthropist was trying to get for us. And I told him, you are so wicked. It was over a dinner. And I left the meeting. I actually paid for his food as well.
Oh, God.
To show him that I am beyond what he was proposing. But these are 5 monitors, which cost about $5,000 each. Bishop bought it. Guaranteed when you come to the neurosurgery ward, it is there. You can imagine if he can do this even for philanthropic donations. Then what about
government procurement?
So, doctors, let me come to you. If a patient walks through your doors, you do diagnosis before you take any actions. Have you done a diagnosis of Ghana's healthcare system? Where are we and what needs to be done to really fix the problems that you shared with us earlier?
Ghana's healthcare system?
Yes.
It's in the ICU. It's in the ICU. Yeah, because
maybe HDU.
Because I tell people that Ghana's healthcare system has, because I'm in the private space, it has a lot of potential. We are arguably one of the most loved healthcare system in the West African space. I have clients who traveled, they won't do any dental work in Nigeria. They will come and see me here in Accra. And if you follow the model that India has, you can create jobs for cab drivers, create jobs for the hotels, and then it comes to the hospital. The brain, the politicians and all the big men travel to England, the States, and the rest to see our colleagues or our classmates who left here and are out there, give us the same gadgets, and we'll be a force to reckon with, because the brain power is there anywhere in the world. You go, my mates who left for the States are professors, are performing top out there. So it's not about the brain power, it's just about the gadgets. And if you don't provide them, there's certain things you cannot, no matter what knowledge you have in there, you need a machine to implement what you've been taught. You cannot get your hand into somebody's vein. You need to get the syringe, you need to get the cannula to deliver. So if you don't have the medication and all that, and it's not a recent thing. It's a story of old. Because you go in there, simple things are not available for you to work. Back in the day when I was training as a dentist in school, you go and the dental chair couldn't go backwards.
So you can't adjust the
You can't
position of
adjust.
the person.
So it was fixed. But you can't. To my space, I see a gadget. I know it will help, because I cannot tell my doctors to work if I don't provide them the equipment. I can't tell a one-legged man to run like Usain Bolt and break the world record. It will not happen. And you see, we are getting a very terrible time, because right now, the medical students start writing USMLE from their third year. So by the time they finish, they are already preparing to leave. And we cannot allow that to continue to happen. Because I was talking to one young daughter who wants to stay. She says all her friends are leaving. And then when she was doing her house job, one resident told her that if she knew in the day, she would have also left. And even now, people who have finished their specialty are still leaving. Yes, they've
Specialists are leaving.
Yes.
Consultants.
Because they're leaving. I know some who are gone. Yes.
Because you don't get well paid, you don't have the right facilities.
Even when he sacrifices to come back, what to make him useful is not there.
Dr. Hardy, do you also believe Ghana's healthcare system is in the ICU?
Probably I will not use like ICU. Probably I would say it's in is it the yellow line? You know, when it comes to like triage and
Not red,
yellow. You know, because I think we have all that we require to be successful, because we have the human resource. Probably one of the most blessed countries. If you go to US, you know, it's Nigeria and Ghana when it comes to like the human resource in the healthcare sector. So we have everything to be successful. I was just telling him when I was at Great Ormond Street Hospital, there was one day that I just entered the toilet and then started crying.
Why?
Because when I look at our level of skills that we had acquired, and even look at some of the guys who trained me and what they could do, and the fact that these guys had all the necessary equipment and sometimes still even struggle with the cases. But back home, it's like they are respected more than us. You know, for me, it was so painful because I saw neuronavigation machines. I mean, for brain surgery now, in modern day brain surgery, you need a neuronavigation machine. We have people in Ghana who argue, and sometimes these are the people that government speak to or politicians speak to and get counseling from, who will tell, oh, it is not necessary. Oh, you don't need it. It's a highfalutin. But it's very basic now because it helps you to navigate through the brain. You can't do spinal cord surgery now without what we call neurophysiological monitors. As I speak, we have about one who is at Focus, which is a private hospital, who from time to time, if you need him, then you have to find a way of bringing him in.
We don't
But
have
these
any
are
other
not
public
these are
hospitals?
not no. And
not even the UGMC.
No, and these are not like highly specialized areas. A colleague, a brother of mine who was your colleague in this space, he was a photographer, married and went to the US, and within 2 years he was trained as a neurophysiologist, and he maps the nerves and the spinal cord during surgery. So you, the doctor, work without even thinking, because there's somebody monitoring the whole brain, the brainstem, the nerves. So you know, when I'm taking out a tumor, I'm completely taking out the tumor. We don't require $1 million to produce one neurophysiologist or to get a neurophysiology machine. I've worked in hospital where now we use like robot. I'm telling you, the cost of this lift that someone was proposing to us could have gotten us a robotic machine. And you hear people say, oh, but when you go to America, they almost use a robot too. I had doctors in India, and they won't say the system, they say Ghanaian doctors there.
Yes.
You know, but all these things were developed because of the past, what has happened with outcomes. It is to improve outcomes. And the user knows the value of this. But when you call someone who is far from this practice for him to advise you as a politician, there's no way he's going to tell you need this. You know, and let me end by saying that every day, some of us, we hardly sleep. We hardly, especially in the specialty that his wife found herself and the specialty that I find myself. People call me across the country. Oh, that we have a young guy who has bled into the brain, and we want to transfer him to Kolebu. It can come from Tamale, from Wa, from Ho, from all over the country. And I tell, okay, can you give me the coma scale of this patient? When you give me the coma scale, I tell them, this patient will need a ventilator. How are you going to transport this patient here? That is a big issue, because the patient is at Wa. What systems have we put in place to make sure that this patient can be airlifted?
We distributed ambulances to each constituency.
No, but you don't need an ambulance. And you remember, Evans Mensah, we remember when I mentioned, when this drone issue came up, and I mentioned, I think some of that money should be invested into getting air ambulances. You see, the politician, they will fly the... I remember Vice President Ali Umar, may so rest in peace. I remember they flew him to Kolebu. You or me, who is going to fly us in? Do we even have... And as a country, we should all ask ourselves and be frank with ourselves. Do we have even one air ambulance? We do not. No. We do not. We've not invested. But how much is an air ambulance? Number two, do we have a proper reference lab for diagnosis? No. As a country, we do not have. So when your tissues are taken, I'm now discussing our healthcare system so you understand what is happening and why we need specialized facilities. If your tissues are taken today, what most of our labs, in terms of pathology for diagnosis, what they can do is histology. But the diagnosis of cancers have gone beyond just saying that, oh, this is tumor A or tumor B. It is now molecular, because they've noticed that tumors that we used to think that, oh, these tumors or cancers are not curable, you can actually identify a gene or a molecule that drives the growth of the tumor. And they've produced drugs that can actually stop that growth. Can our labs give us that particular report here? Few years ago, I was so embarrassed that a lady that we were managing, she was always in and out of the hospital. Several samples were taken from this woman to make a diagnosis. Our labs couldn't give us the oh, this report, it comes and oh, it's normal tissue. Finally, The woman gathered some money and went to US. And when the diagnosis was made, it was something benign. It was so embarrassing to me because all she needed was just a hormone therapy. And that was it. She didn't even need anti-cancer drug. But so as a country, we as people must begin to fight for some of these things. Look, the issue of the air ambulance, I think, is very important, and it should be available to every citizen in this country, because any of us can get stroke at any point in time. 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds are getting stroke. Yeah. So this is my advice to the health minister and the government. We must get, as a country, we must get the air ambulance. That's number one. Number two, we must get a proper reference pathology lab. It is very important. These two things are very important. And then number three, it's just not the ventilator. How many spaces do we have? Kolebu, we have just 4 spaces at the surgical block. For neuroscience, when it's full, it's full. In Tamale, they told you it is 4. So just provision of even the ventilator alone is not enough.
The space.
The infrastructure
Yes.
to house the ventilator.
Yes, and then the cost of the ICU care. Who is going to bond that?
'Cause it's one
I've
nurse
seen
per-
some of the well-resourced people in this country. And Kojo, it is not joke. In Kolebu, the first day you pay 8,000 Ghana cedis in the ICU. That's your fee, apart from the labs and the medications that you require. And it's 4,000 every day. How many Ghanaians can afford that? Now, who do we expect to pay for these patients who can't afford but are in the ICU? In the private hospital, they will move you out. In India, if you die, they will even confiscate the body. When our people go there and they can't pay for these facilities, they are unable to. And I've seen very resourceful, rich people, after 1 month in the ICU, their wealth has significantly been eroded by it. We shouldn't expect the poor patient and their relatives to be paying for this care. So whilst we are on top of our voice saying we need ventilators, we need ICU, what programs have we put in place to make sure that when patients are admitted in the ICU, we would have enough funds to pay for it? It shouldn't come from the pocket of you and I. We cannot. How many Ghanaians can afford about 10,000 Ghana cedis a day for just admission? I say IMA, if you are the International Maritime. So putting up those facilities alone are not enough. We need proper policy finance mechanism to make sure that everybody benefit from this. ICU care is so expensive. It's so expensive. And you and I can assure you, no medical doctor in Ghana at the moment could sustain the funding of his or her relative in the ICU
What
for
makes
one,
it so
1
expensive
month.
though? So you have the machines, you have the people.
Yeah.
Is it the consumables? Is it energy?
The monitoring, the
It's
consumables.
the consumable and the monetary. You
'Cause
need like what we call
patient
blood
also
gases. You
is
need
one
to-
nurse,
Exactly.
especially trained nurse, not just a regular nurse. You know, but I would say it's how do we value life in this country?
Exactly.
Baseline. I tell people not to get political, but Israel will release so many people to get one dead Israeli body. America will go at look at when the Ebola happened.
Yeah.
They flew a specialized jet to pick up their people. That's how much they value life. Look, the last time I was trying to get a travel insurance for my sister, she's on the British passport. I called and said, "Oh, she doesn't need travel insurance. By virtue of having a British passport, she's been insured."
Exactly.
Yes. So if there's something, she comes and there's something, we evacuate her quickly.
You know, when Dr. Hardy was talking about their skills and everything, it took me back to some of my experiences. For example, I was at Johns Hopkins. I think sometime in 2018, I engaged the chief surgeon there, asked about what he thought about Ghanaian doctors and healthcare practitioners. What he told me was that you are so good at what you do, even though you don't have the machinery, and that if he brought any of his people here, to work under the same conditions, those people would not excel, because they've been trained with machines and everything at their disposal that they cannot work with those things. But you guys don't have same. And then I engaged the mayor of Baltimore as well on this air ambulance thing you had. In fact, they showed us a map of where they've strategically placed their air ambulances, such that if any citizen had an issue, within 30 minutes you should be able to be picked and taken to the nearest facility for healthcare. And you also mentioned Israel, Dr. Glover. Yeah. I went to Sheba Medical Hospital. Okay. When we were there, a helicopter came in with injured soldiers. They looked really injured because we could see the blood and everything. We asked the chief surgeon there, are these people going to be okay? He said, at Sheba, we are so resourced that unless God decides that this person must not live, the person would live. So I'm just saying all these things to let us appreciate what we have and what could be. And Kojo, you
Yeah, in fact, thank you for staying with us. We're talking to Dr. Hadi Mohammed and Dr. Glover. We're talking about healthcare in Ghana. We're learning it from the perspective of the doctors. I asked earlier about the apology that is being called for from the minister. Let me ask about the strike. Currently in the Tamale Teaching Hospital, there are no emergency services. Patients who require emergency service cannot get it because the doctors say they won't work until the health minister has provided some equipment and apologized. Dr. Glover, do you support this move by the doctors? So, personally, I don't think any doctor likes strikes because we are also victims to it, right? Because aside you seeing my face over here, when I'm working out there, nobody it's not tattooed on my body that I'm Dr. Glover. So if I have an emergency and there's a strike on, I would fall victim to the actions of my colleagues. So basically, no doctor likes strikes. Now, they are working in a system that, despite the fact that the strike is biting them, they need to have their structures well put in place. As I was telling you, if you disrespect for lack of a better word, if we see that the fact that the doctor was put on the spot and told to shut up and was disrespected, you are breaking down the order within his setup. Because the next time, as I said, he would give you an instruction that is critical to the survival of a patient, and the person can choose to disrespect. Actually, if it's a party person, he will have the boldness to also follow suit with what has been done.
Yeah.
And then the law and order breaks down over there. So it's not one that they are asking for too much and saying sorry, as he said. And you see, when you are a leader in my place, even when there are issues that I have to deal with the manager, there's no way I'll do it in front of the subordinates. Because I disrespect he or she out there, I break down law and order.
There's a space for everything,
yes.
Right?
But Dr. Glover, your profession swears an oath. First, do no harm. Yes. Do you feel that this thing that has happened in Tamale is enough grounds for the life-saving services of doctors to be voluntarily withdrawn, potentially doing a lot of harm?
Doc, I want you to hold that answer there. We'll go for a quick break. When we return, you give us that answer. And for listeners, we'll hear from you very soon. We are just going for a quick break. When we return, we'll take this answer, a couple more questions, and we'll come to you, listeners. Stay with us.
Kolebu Teaching Hospital, one of a handful.
The rare species.
Yes. He's also the General Secretary of the Islamic Medical Association of Ghana. He's held many other leadership positions in the medical field. He's been doing this for 30 years. 20 years, forgive me, sorry, my mistake. 20 years. Dr. Harry Benjamin Kwali Glover is the CEO of Life Healthcare Medical, Dental and Optical Centers. We are learning so much from our guests this morning. We're going to wrap this up quickly so we can hear from you with your questions and your issues as you raise them on the show. Now, just before the break, Dr. Glover, I was asking you about your oath, do no harm, and how that sits alongside a strike, particularly on emergency services in a place as deprived as Tamale.
The oath we saw, yes, do your patient or do no harm in general to everything that you deal with, right? But you know, when a doctor's mind is not straight, he's a dangerous tool. I don't know the circumstances after what's happening currently in Tamale. I believe that soon the strike will be over once they sit down to iron out things. But when you have a doctor who's agitated, he's a dangerous tool. So if things are not settled, and you see, to a large extent, back even before I entered the profession, the only language I used to hear that made government move was strike. Back when I was a kid. And even you look at almost every sector, when you want to drive home a demand, instead of government always has this position that, okay, I have the power, I dig my feet deep. Your only way, you cannot impose on me, I'm your boss. The people also would say, okay, we also have the power, we will also show you. So it's been a power play thing all these years in every sector. So at that point, the oath may not even necessarily come to play, because it's been a sort of a cultural thing in every sector of. If you come with teachers, once they go on strike, you are breaking the teaching of the kid. The kid has to absorb continuous for a period. If it comes to the port, if it comes to every sector, is equally important.
So you feel like under these circumstances, the oath should not apply?
It will apply, but you see, at the end, emotions also will come to play. The doctors are also still human beings. Despite the fact that they have the oath.
What do you say to those who say, look, Ghana Medical Association and these doctors unions, just last year, when the whole country was pushing government to stop galamsey, declare a state of emergency, these doctors backed out. But now somebody has told one of you to keep quiet.
That is
all on strike.
That is a very, do I say, for lack of, I want to be diplomatic. It was quite controversial because it was somebody like me there. Definitely yes, because the effects of the galamsey on renal and all that, my mates who are Ghanaians tell me that they are increasingly seeing deformed babies. So that I don't understand. So I would say I associate myself from that. Yes, on my personal score, I would have.
And could you let me tell you what? I mean, that decision nearly
broke our front. Big time.
So it's not something that all doctors throughout Ghana decided that no, I mean, we're not going to declare nationwide strike action because of galamsey. I mean, and the Executive Council knew that if that was put to a vote in the General Assembly, would have felt like what happened with Utah. We were not given that opportunity. It was a decision that was taken by the Executive Council, and knowing the exigencies of the time and maybe feeling the mood of doctors, they knew very well. And it's something that leadership always would employ when they know that looking at the mood, like what actually brought me into limelight was something like that. When people had lost hope in the Ghana Medical Association, and I was a very young doctor. This was about 20 years ago, you know, and I was trusted into leadership because the junior doctor said, no, this is the decision we're taking. And once we started the strike action, then the rest of the doctors in the other regions began to hook up to it. So I think that really wasn't like the case that we didn't want to go on strike action. But with the issue in Tamale, it's really unfortunate with what is happening. I know how precarious healthcare there is. I would want to use this platform again to call on our colleagues to plead that, look, with what the minister has done. So I think in a way he tried to apologize, listening to him yesterday. But probably his ego also wouldn't allow him to frankly come out and say that, look, I want to publicly apologize. But I think in a way he was a bit remorseful with what has happened. And if you add that to the items that, I know that is not all that they were calling for, but they should temper justice with mercy and probably call off the strike action. Because I can see across the country from discussion that is going on, people feel like Kolebu, we should also do the same thing because we don't have certain things within the emergency, but I think that is not like the best decision. This is a new government. Let's give them some time.
Okay. No, quick question. Because, do we need medical doctors as CEOs of teaching hospitals?
Sure. Research has shown that doctors are actually the best.
There are those who have studied health services management, health administration. They've done their, courses in their MBAs, PhDs in all of that. Do you necessarily need a medical doctor to do that?
No, there's a position of administrator within a hospital. They can take that position. But there's a reason why. And I always say that, look, we are in the world of fact now. We must have empirical evidence. And all the research that has been done over the years has shown that doctors by far, it is not even like comparable. By far, in one of the studies, about 60% far better than just those who have done mainstream. There's a reason why a doctor should be in charge. It's a technically demanding area. And there are a lot of technicalities that are involved. Some of the things that I was discussing.
Those who have studied healthcare administration cannot do?
Oh, no. Look, healthcare... You can be the best. You can have a PhD. You can have a PhD.
Doc is arguing in this. Doc, in the car manufacturing space, the argument largely now is that because the accountants and the finance people took over a lot of the car manufacturing companies, we are not seeing better cars like we used to have. So we need the engineers back in managing the aircraft manufacturing companies and the car manufacturing companies. It's the same argument you're making. You need somebody with subject matter knowledge to manage the sector.
Exactly. You see, if you pick an accountant, you can pick an accountant. If you don't orient the accountant very well, he may not appreciate the need, for example, blood gases equipment. But if you look at most of the research that has been done, actually, the ones who have been top managers are those who are higher achievers, even in their clinical practice. So it's not just any doctor, but it's a doctor that has gone through the mill and has become very successful. That person can be given training. It doesn't necessarily have to have like a PhD in leadership or business management, but they can do short courses that are tailored on leadership and management. And now, most of the medical schools and then the postgraduate colleges have identified that. So they have leadership and management as part of the program.
Great.
Doctors are actually taught that. And I think we have to forcefully make this particular statement. I've heard even some lawyers making that argument. Some of them have become...
Let's share some of the messages that I've
Okay, thank you.
Relax.
We have your messages 05511119997. And as I read the messages, maybe the doctor should think about the position of Minister of Health. Just as Attorney General must be a lawyer, do you also think Minister of Health should be a lawyer? In your closing remarks, you can give me that answer. Now, this message says, good morning, Kojo and Winston. I'm very sad listening to you this morning on how far Ghanaians can take this demon called corruption, even at the expense of human lives. I think we need to do something urgently to clean up the system as far as the procurement system at Kolebu and other public health facilities are concerned, so that we can exorcise this demon called corruption, as well as corrupt medical doctors and workers and their collaborators. This is from Prosper Komla Domenyo from Dakuman in Accra. Nanekuya says, please extend my greetings to Dr. Glover. He's my dentist and a very good one. Nanekuya per discount, no. Now, this person says, I really admire Dr. Hadi, very professional. He knows what he does. I agree with you, Doc. The minister could have engaged a doctor without making it a public spectacle. This is from William Amo. Good morning, Santa Glover. This one says, good morning. I disagree with you guys. I'm a lady. I go to Aboso Kai myself. Oh, this is in reaction to our conversation way earlier about vehicles. Yes, I'm a lady. I go to Aboso Kai myself. I'm able to detect every problem on my car and suggest what is wrong with the car to the mechanic. This is from Ray Inspectors. Yeah,
is she the rule or the exception?
Now, this message says, excellent question, Winston. The issue we have is that some of the doctors are very selfish when it comes to paying for their emoluments, such as their allowances and their training. There's no question about that. How come they couldn't use internally generated funds to purchase simple things such as the machines they are talking about? Leaders are to think outside the box and solve problems. Some doctor managers, such as the medical doctor at Ga East, are doing very well, though. I'm a health worker, and so I don't want my name to be mentioned. Jonathan in Ga West says, good morning. Procurement in hospitals is guided by the procurement law, and procurement rules are set out in the Public Procurement Act. The hospitals pay for purchased goods at a later date, maybe sometimes within 3 months. Now, the payments sometimes go beyond the 3 months. The suppliers therefore factor in all the economic costs, inflation, exchange rates, etc. during the bidding processes. Hence, sometimes the higher quotes. They do this to hedge their capital against bad economic variables. Certainly, the cost of goods will be lower if it is paid upfront. You need an expert within the hospital environment to give proper explanations regarding internal procurement. The doctors in the studio are doing well, but not fully abreast with all the trends and the issues when it comes to procurement. This is Jonathan in Ga West.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. But to be fair, we are being told that when you contact the supplier directly, the price is different. The supplier has the same risks that you are pointing out, but they are quoting you, a price that is a quarter of what the middleman is quoting you.
Now, Iwanotete in Kaswa says, God save Ghana from procurement and the Draculas within the space. I am in tears. This one is from P in Sege. He says, good morning, Kojo. I'm really having goosebumps listening to how twisted our procurement industry is. I even fear for his life, but the truth is that nothing will change. What a country we live in. Now, this one also says, why can't we just buy directly and have free clearance on healthcare products and machines for our own hospitals? So, do we pay taxes when we import these machines in?
Yeah.
But of course.
Yes.
We do?
Yeah.
Taxes.
Sir. Okay. Now, this message says, the health minister in a short period in the ministry is creating a bad vibe with members of that sector. I think he should slow down, and maybe the president must consider changing him so that things move swiftly in the space. These are some of your messages, Kojo.
All right, thanks. Do we have time to take a couple of calls?
No.
Oh,
Let's
gosh.
wrap it up.
All right. Well, listen.
We are living in a different world.